If your child is struggling with eczema, you have probably already been to quite a few practitioners, your pediatrician, maybe even a specialist, to try and figure out what to do. If your child has things like red patches on their skin, something that looks really dry and flaky, maybe it's even gotten to the point where it's cracked and oozing, that can be such a scary place to be in. And unfortunately, we don't always get the answers that we're looking for when we're asking for help. One of the places where eczema starts, I'd say probably the main place where eczema starts, is always going to be in the gut. Babies are born with a microbiome already. It may not be as diversified as an adult's microbiome. And all I mean by that is the different types of bacteria and yeast that make up your digestive tract. When babies are born, they have a certain type of bacteria. There are so many things that can affect that. If your child has been on antibiotics for an ear infection, if you were on antibiotics when you were pregnant with your child and didn't replace them with the probiotics that they need, there are a lot of things like stress, gastroenteritis, so food poisoning, any like vomiting, stomach flu, those kinds of things will all change the microbiome in a child. So there's usually something that starts the lack of diversity in a child's gut and then eventually manifests itself as something like eczema. By the time anything shows up in the skin, whether it's a rash or hives or eczema, or as an adult, if it's psoriasis, by the time it has already degraded the mucosal layer of your digestive tract, your colon particularly, and that is now leading to a lot of inflammatory proteins leaking out into your bloodstream, manifesting themselves on the surface. Children who have eczema will eventually end up with things like allergies and asthma. That's just a part of what we call the atopic picture. And again, it all starts from the gut. So what do we do about this? There has to be something that we can do, and there absolutely is. It starts with figuring out what the microbiome looks like, taking a map of that. So that's a stool test, and that's a really easy thing to do. We never want to just treat eczema from the outside in because, like I just explained, it's an inside out problem. So we have to start from the inside first. This can also be really frustrating for parents of children who say by this time, maybe they're 5, 6, 7 years old. I've even seen really bad 2-year-olds where the skin is already cracked and oozing. They're not sleeping. They're itching themselves until they bleed during the day. Now their mood is totally all over the place. They're incredibly irritable. It's a scary place to watch, scary place to be in as a parent. By the time that happens, what parents want the most is relief for their child, and that's completely understandable. I am not above using very low dose steroids when appropriate so that we can kind of calm that internal fire and bridge the gap until we're able to take care of root cause. That is something that often surprises parents when they come to see me, because they come to see me because we don't want to use steroids. We don't want to use creams, and neither do I. It is not every case that we have to do this, but every case I take is unique, and we always have to treat it that way. So if it's a circumstance where we need to calm an internal fire just so that we can get to root cause, that is what we're going to have to do. So that is kind of the beginning place that we start with. If a child isn't eating or sleeping or absorbing their nutrients, we have to give the body what it needs. It has to have those building blocks before we can ever fix the problem from a root cause. Eventually, we get to the root cause of healing that gut, sealing that gut, repopulating that microbiome, whatever that looks like. It's going to be different for every child. And teaching long-term strategies, which generally involve diet, moving forward. What I hate to see is when kids are essentially just eating air. They've gotten to the point where parents are taking everything out of their diet to try to identify what is causing the reaction. By the time your child is reacting to foods, having histamine reactions to foods, that is not a food problem. That is still very much a gut problem. And you are going to find that over time, you'll be taking more and more and more foods away from that child to try to fix the issue when that was never the real problem to begin with. So we've got to make sure that we can really identify if there are true food sensitivities, and that's a part of long-term management. But that is impossible to do in the beginning if a child is extremely flared. So we always have to calm that fire first. I hope this video helps parents who are looking for a different way. I know it can be kind of disappointing to spend so much time and money going through the system asking for help, seeking help, begging for help, and just not getting it. At the very least, what I can do is offer advocacy. If it's not something that you're able to invest in right now, working with a naturopathic doctor, one of the things that I do to give back is just to educate. So if that means that we connect on social media and I can help kind of point you in the right direction, then I am always, always happy to do that. I am here to empower patients and parents first and foremost.